Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining the Sector Activation Plan application webinar for round 3 of the Regional Investment Initiative Catalyst Funding. I'll start sharing screen, so please bear with me. Okay, you should all be able to see my screen. Nice. I'm Maria Linares. I serve as the Business Initiatives Manager at Orange County Business Council, and OCBC serves as the regional convener for the California Jobs First initiative in Orange County, where we bring together key stakeholders to drive inclusive economic development. I'm joined by Jesse Benron, Vice President of Business Initiatives, Dr. Wallace Walrod, Chief Economic Advisor, and Natalie Nguyen with Charitable Ventures, who serves as the fiscal agent for California Jobs First in the Orange County region. In today's session, we're going to walk you through everything you need to know about this funding opportunity. We'll cover the California Jobs First objectives, eligible proposals, eligible entities, and the scoring criteria. Then we'll also go over key deadlines, available resources, and information about grant mentorship support to help you submit the strongest possible application. And of course, we'll leave time for questions so you can walk away feeling confident about your next steps. I welcome you to add your questions in the Q&A portion of this webinar, and we'll get to all of them. We'll also be sharing this presentation after the webinar, so expect an email from me. It'll be a recap email with links and attachments that will come from the Jobs First email. The webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to our Jobs First webpage in the next few days. And then friendly reminder that we will not be covering or answering questions about the specifics of the California Jobs First initiative, such as the history of the program. An informational webinar on the Regional Investment Initiative was held during round 1 of Catalyst funding, and that session explored the work that laid the foundation for the Catalyst Pre-Development Notice of Funding opportunity, and it also provided historical context on California Jobs First and the Regional Investment Initiative. So it had the specifics of the history of this initiative. And then to access that webinar, I have hyperlinked it at the top of this slide. And if you're not familiar with the history of this initiative, I encourage you to view the recording. Now, with that being said, we'll now move on to the next slide to go over the California Jobs First objectives. The core of this initiative is to build a community-led, climate-forward economy by investing in key sectors to drive sustainable economic growth, innovation, and access to good-paying jobs. Basically, we're here to make sure that economic growth is intentional, inclusive, and sustainable, and not just growth for the sake of growth. This is a first of its kind investment born out of the governor's office. We're currently in round 3 of Catalyst funding. If you have been with us since round 1, you'll notice that this round is different from the first 2 rounds in what it requires from the applicants. We have up to $1 million in funding available to advance the tasks mentioned in either of the 5 activation plans, which are healthcare, medical technology, childcare, tourism and outdoor activities, and semiconductors. And the goals of funding sector activation plan tasks are to invest in industries that will advance good-paying job opportunities in high-opportunity industries and or significantly improve job quality in specific industries. The goals are also to advance projects that ensure disinvested communities significantly benefit. Additionally, they aim to advance projects that can assist the state in meeting its climate goals and generally improve environmental sustainability. And then finally, the goals are to advance projects physically located in or that have significant participation for Orange County residents. In the past 2 rounds of funding, we awarded a total of $8 million, and you can find a list of the awarded projects on our Jobs First webpage. On this slide and in the NOFO on page 16, you can find the definition of good paying jobs, but basically occupation source of income that offer baseline annual earnings of $48,353, receive employer-sponsored healthcare, can afford healthcare coverage, have full-time 35 hours a week, and full-year appointment 50 weeks or more. The intent of the scoring committee will be to allocate up to $200,000 in funding to each of the 5 eligible sectors. The sectors are in the NOFO. They're also on a Jobs First webpage. You can also see them hyperlinked on this slide. So long as competitive proposals justify the allocation. To keep it short, an activation plan is a project management tool designed to effectively execute strategies, and you can find this same definition of an activation plan on our Jobs First webpage. As it relates to the activation plans, you'll want to look at the tactic, tasks, responsible party, etc. sections. You'll want to thoroughly review the activation plan, but definitely focus on this tactical work plan section. And you might have questions about what is considered a reasonable classification for responsible party. California Jobs First or OCBC staff will make the ultimate decision of whether the responsible party is eligible under the classifications listed in the tactical work plan. And I also hyperlinked this activation plan, which is one of the 5, just as an example. You'll want to review this section as it talks about partnerships and the fact that many of these orgs have a successful record in helping move the needle forward and will ensure successful implementation as well. So please look for this section in each of the activation plans. Suggested partners and their roles for the tourism and outdoor activation plan include what you see on the screen. It's important that you look at your designated activation plan as these orgs vary depending on the activation plan. So these specific orgs won't all be, not every single org will be in the other 4 activation plans. Some might be and some might overlap. But for example, in the outdoor one, you won't find first 5. And you'll find it in childcare. And then here's a few more organizations. So just please make sure that you're looking through all of them. Eligible entities are only those that are listed as a responsible party within the tactical work plan, or parties that can reasonably classify themselves as associated with the classification and/or definition of a responsible party. Please see the Identify Regional Partners for Implementation Tactics section of each activation plan to determine which group you could define yourself under. If you are an eligible party, your proposal must be in accordance with the task that the responsible party is listed under, and all entities are eligible for funding with the exception of applying as an individual. The individual can be involved in the application, but the applicant must be a legally recognized entity. Those currently serving as sector investment coordinators under Catalyst are ineligible to apply for this funding, and tasks not explicitly listed in any of the activation plans are also ineligible for funding. So here's one thing you really want to look at. There are a total of 5 project scoring criteria categories. We will begin with project impact and equity, which are worth 40 points combined. In the project impact section, you'll want to provide an overview of how the task you are proposing will have a significant impact on economic development and the number of good-paying jobs in Orange County. You'll explain how accomplishing this specific task is important and impactful for the region. Please don't forget to provide the number of good-paying jobs. We had applicants in past rounds forget to provide this key information in their application. And then when answering economic equity, please demonstrate how your project benefits disinvested communities and/or its residents, referencing the Jobs First census tracts for Orange County. We'll look at the census tract map in a bit. And then note that in addition to projects located in or serving residents of disinvested census tracts, applicants may also propose projects that serve individuals who experience employment barriers regardless of their place of residence. And this includes, but is not limited to, individuals who are justice involved, foster youth, single parents, individuals with disabilities, and others as defined in the glossary section. And while these individuals may not reside in a mapped disinvested community, they may still meet eligibility criteria based on the income level or other socioeconomic factors. And then if the beneficiaries are Native American, they don't need to be on the map. The work plan is worth 25 points and it focuses on the timeline of the specific activities. The funds you are requesting will help advance the task in the activation plan and assign roles for key staff, project partners, and potential consultants. Please provide measurable objectives and performance indicators directly for the work you're applying to do. And then all proposed activities must be completed by September 30, 2026. So a little bit under a year from now. There is no way around this. This requirement comes directly from the state, so it's not like OCBC could extend the date for you. The org qualifications category is worth 20 points, and in this section, please describe the lead applicant org, including relevant experience and capacity to manage the project. Do also include the organization's capacity to execute similar projects, outlining specific past projects and outcomes. And then the last ones are proposed budget and budget narrative, worth 15 points. You'll need to provide a detailed budget that itemizes costs by category, such as personnel, materials, travel, subcontractors, etc. And you can find a budget template and the budget narrative document on our Jobs First webpage within the Catalyst application materials section, and also within the application grant web portal. And you'll then upload these attachments to the grant web portal where it says upload file. And the scoring criteria can be found on pages 8 and 9 in the NOFO packet. And I also hyperlinked the grant web portal in the slide. So I'm going to stop screen sharing real quick so we can move to the map that I was just talking about. Which I also hyperlinked for you. This leads you to the Jobs First webpage. So this is the webpage I've been talking about. You'll see a definition of California Jobs First, the Regional Investment Initiative, some information of Catalyst funding, the Notice of Funding Opportunity section, Catalyst application materials section, which I've been mentioning throughout this webinar and will continue to do so. This is where you can find the NOFO packet, budget narrative, budget template, the activation plans, and then a timeline, the Q&A, and then FAQ. And then just continue scrolling until you find the map. Equity is a key focus of this initiative. When looking at the map, you'll see different demographic distributions. We mentioned in the NOFO packet and then the application that the key maps to focus on for equity are maps 204, 304, and 404, and then to focus on the blue and or green, where you'll find the lower income areas, designated disadvantaged areas, and then areas of intersect. If you're working with Native American or Indigenous communities, they automatically qualify as disinvested community regardless of location. And they don't need, or they do need to be in Orange County, but they don't need to be in one of those census tracts. And then for all other communities, qualification is based on census tract data. You can see that the map allows you to zoom in and see the areas that represent disinvested communities, which are marked in green, blue, or purple. I'll go ahead and click on 2 of 4. This is the lower income areas section. You see how you can zoom in? And then 3 of 4 shows the blue sections. You'll see blue, red, yellow, all these different colors, but please focus on the colors that I mentioned. And then here's 404, areas of intersect. It's just an example. In the NOFO packet and in the glossary section, look at the disinvested community definition. You'll find a list of what the state considers to be disinvested. And please also remember what I mentioned earlier, which is that applicants may also propose for those who serve individuals who experience employment barriers regardless of their place of residence. So I'm going to pull up the grant web portal now, which I also hyperlinked in the slides. You'll want to enter an email address. So it gives you the instructions. It'll say, click on create a new account to complete the registration process. You'll enter your credentials and then you'll log in. If you click on forgot your password, it'll send you a link. So if you don't have an account, if you didn't apply during round 2 of Catalyst funding, you'll need to create a brand new account. And it'll send you a link where you can reset your password. So I'm going to log in like if I was an applicant. I wanted you all to look at the grant web portal as an applicant. We kept the application simple to make the process easier for applicants. The goal is to keep it accessible and not make things more complicated. We reviewed the scoring criteria earlier, so we won't need to go over those again. I just wanted to show you what this looks like for all of you, make things easier. There's an apply button at the top left. You'll click on that. I provided some of this information so that you could look at the purpose of the funding, again, in a condensed format, and then what are eligible proposals and activities. And I also hyperlinked each of the activation plans. So you'll see that within the application, a lot of the documents that are necessary are hyperlinked for your convenience. So you don't have to go searching in your bookmarks or on the Jobs First website. You'll close this. You'll say, yes, I want to apply. You'll enter your first and last name, so the applicant's information. Definitely enter an email because you'll want to get an email confirmation. Your org address, if you have one. There's a checklist here. It's just a reminder, please review the NOFO before applying and then look at the FAQ. If you are using a fiscal agent, you don't have to, but if you are using one or you are your own fiscal agent, please enter the information here. If there's additional orgs who are co-applicants or partners in your proposal, please also select yes. If you don't have any, you can say no. Your fiscal agent name, tax ID, EIN information. If you do have a co-applicant or partner info to upload, just upload it here. Your project name is important. This is the project name that we use when promoting your project, should you be selected and awarded. That'll go on the Jobs First website. That'll go on our newsletters. That'll go to your local legislators. And then you'll click on the drop-down menu and you'll select your activation plan. So say I want to apply for semiconductor. I'll select that. And then you'll go over the brief description of your project. So think of it as you want us to get the quick details, up to 300 characters or less. Just a quick snapshot of what your project is. Project impact section we talked about earlier, economic equity. The map is linked here. Work plan, org qualifications. We reviewed all of this earlier. Your budget uploads, total funding requests, please enter the amount. Budget narrative. And then applications are due no later than 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Friday, October 17, 2025. And they have to be submitted through this designated grant web portal. You can also access it in the NOFO packet on page 7. Please don't email me your application packet. We won't accept it. And you'll click on the link that's embedded in the presentation, and then there is a requirement to submit 3 letters of reference. You can you don't have to address it, but if you want to, we've had this question in previous rounds. You can just address it to Orange County Business Council. You'll find more information on page 9 of the NOFO packet regarding references. There needs to be some narrative, a paragraph or two referencing your ability to deliver and speaking to your character. There are no restrictions. It doesn't need to come from a specific entity. However, these references need to be someone who is not employed by or is directly associated with your organization and doesn't stand to benefit financially from the project. And the intent of the reference is to verify your org's qualifications. In total, again, the application includes 5 key questions with a straightforward process to keep it accessible. And don't forget about the one-page project summary upload as well. You'll just include a summary addressing the task being undertaken per the activation plan, what the benefits of the task are to the region, who would directly benefit, and then the total funding request. You can save your application and come back later as long as it's before October 17 or on October 17 before 5 p.m. Or you can submit your application if you feel that you're ready. I'll go back to the presentation. And it never goes back to where I left off. The Regional Investment Initiative informational webinar was recorded in round 1 of the NOFO release. Again, it's embedded within the slide. I also sent the link to all of you who registered for this webinar so you could view the recording, mostly just to help you feel prepared for today. So I encourage you to view the recording, please, if you aren't informed about the history of this initiative. I'll also be emailing this presentation with whatever links you all need sometime today or over the weekend, and then you'll have everything you need, pretty much everything, just to ensure that you submit a successful application. And application deadline, again, October 17, 2025 by 5 p.m. And if your application is incomplete, it won't be eligible. And then proposals received after 5 also won't be eligible. We will not review them. And there are no exceptions. And if anything on our NOFO isn't clear to you, we also have a Q&A portion on our webpage and the FAQ documents. I walked you through that just a few minutes ago. Answers to submitted questions will be updated weekly on our webpage while the application window remains open. So please take a look at that, as some of the questions that you have may have already been answered in detail. And you'll see an updated Q&A every Friday by noon on the Jobs First webpage. And we also want to announce and encourage you all to reach out. We have grant writing mentors available to assist you. The mentor will provide advice on preparing a complete and compelling proposal and will review and offer suggestions to your draft. But the mentor will not write the grant proposal for you. You are welcome to request up to 5 hours of mentorship at no cost to the applicant by emailing jobsfirst@ocbc.org. And I usually get on that pretty quickly. The moment I receive the email requesting a grant writing mentor, I make the connection immediately. Information about Catalyst funding will continue to be released throughout our newsletters. If you'd like to be added to the constant contact list, please send me an email to jobsfirst@ocbc.org. And then financial or contract related questions will go to Charitable Ventures, and that's subcontracts@charitableventuresoc.org. On this slide, you can find our contact information. I check this email throughout the day, many times a day, and pretty much respond quickly. You don't have to wait a day or two or a few days. I'm on it. I'm on top of it, especially while the application is open. And now that we've reviewed all of the information that I think is really important for you all to know, we can move into the Q&A portion of this webinar. Jesse, Dr. Walrod, and Natalie, and I will all be answering questions. I'm going to stop screen share. And I will look at the Q&A. Oh, I see 14 have been answered. Thank you, everyone that pitched in. Okay, I see one that says, I did not see a funding request. Oh, it's been answered. And if you'd like to come off mute, you all, attendees, you're welcome to raise your hand as well, or drop it in the Q&A, and we'll make sure to unmute you. I don't see any other questions. I think I answered everything within the presentation. Oh, I see Jonathan.
Hello, Maria. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi Jonathan. How are you?
I'm good. Hello, Maria. Thank you so much. I work for the Coalition of Orange County Community Health Centers, and this is our second time applying. So we just wanted to kind of confirm and verify that our approach is okay before we continue forward with the same approach or kind of change that approach differently. So for other people in the questions, they were kind of asking their approach. Ours is kind of creating a feasibility test within our community health centers to see if behavioral health, allied health, or medical assistant would be a good pipeline creation to form for a sustainable pipeline of making connections with community colleges, maybe third party nonprofits to create a pipeline to then have those students go into our community health centers and kind of create a cycle of students coming in and out from school to our clinics. Would that be something to create, good paying jobs? And is that feasible?
I'll have Jesse answer that, but before I do that, which activation plan were you thinking of looking at?
Healthcare.
Healthcare. Okay, sorry if you mentioned that and I didn't catch it. Jesse, would you mind helping me or Dr. Walrod with this question?
Sorry, I'm trying to come my video. So again, not much a direct answer other than like if you see that in under a task within the activation plan, then you can do it. So just kind of for the whole group here, yeah, like the activation plans and the tasks in there set the framework of what you can apply for. You can either read the task and say, my organization is very well equipped to do this and go ahead and execute it. Or if you, like many of you, it seems like you have projects. So long as the project meets the objective of the task, you can then propose on it. So there's two different approaches to kind of look at it. So I can't say kind of yes or no, just I'm sorry, like each activation plan is 50 pages and there's 5 of them. So I don't know every task off the top of my head. But if you can credibly, and if you want to read the activation plans, if you haven't already, then come back and show us which task you're referring to. We are happy to say whether that is going to be eligible or not. So if you kind of, so John, I'd recommend then please review the activation plans if you haven't. Go to the task and say, here's what we want to do. We think it fits, task number, blah, 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 blah. And we will go ahead and kind of make that determination. So you're not writing a proposal that would be ineligible from the first place.
Mhm.
Jesse, thank you so much. And Maria, thank you so much. That makes complete sense.
No, thank
You're
you.
welcome. And something I've been encouraging for folks that are potential applicants is just send me a one-page project summary of what you think you want to propose. And like Jesse mentioned, look at the activation plan, look at the tasks, look at the responsible parties, and then tell me how they connect. And then as staff, we review. If we think that we can make some connection and it makes sense, then we get back to you. No matter what, I get back to you, but I'll let you know. That looks like a feasible proposal. Okay, Catherine, within the child care activation plan, the tasks have various responsible parties listed. We're trying to identify if we are an eligible responsible party as a nonprofit, sorry, for profit. Are we able to categorize ourselves as a small business and entrepreneurship support org? I want to say yes, but I don't want to give the wrong answer. So Jesse?
Yeah, Catherine, I think we kind of have you. We'd have to look at kind of what your organization does and just sees if it kind of is aligned. Again, I would say this, we will be like liberal in the definition, but we won't just say yes to everything. So just a heads up. So I think if you can clearly articulate the argument that you fit a small business and entrepreneurship support organization because of your past work, then we will say yes. So I think that's probably one where, Catherine, if you are, please email us offline, making that justification. We will review and get you an answer right away.
And then the next question is, please clarify the type of ineligible applicants again. Hi, Clifford. So sector investment coordinators under Catalyst, they know who they are ineligible to apply. And then tasks that are not explicitly listed in the activation plans, also ineligible. And I do see questions about, I'll just say this is a different type of NOFO. I know it was already mentioned in the Q&A. So please review the NOFO thoroughly. It's not going to be the same as rounds 1 and rounds 2. Okay, Travis is asking, since each activation plan has 200,000 allocated, is it more competitive to request the full 200 with a comprehensive proposal, or do you anticipate splitting that amount among multiple smaller proposals that add up to 200,000? Jesse.
Yeah, you'll have to still propose on each task. So each task will require a separate proposal. So I would say there is no definitive answer there, but if you're going to do a comprehensive one, then you're probably submitting 10 proposals for the full 200,000, just FYI. So I can't say because there could be some orgs that could just really do the whole thing well. But that's how we're going to look at it. So in some ways, as Travis, I think it kind of spoke to your previous question. Like, let's say there's a lot of people who like task number 2. Then we're going to pull you all together and compare who is the strongest in task 2. So if you're also applying for task 5, task 8, going down the line, we're going to assemble you based on your kind of competitors in that space and then make the determination. So I guess either way, you are sending in multiple smaller proposals regardless, but you could be the winner of kind of within those tasks to maybe you would receive the full 200,000. That's very much a possibility. But I guess regardless, it's not like you're sending one full proposal. You are still submitting smaller proposals, but we recognize it'll be the same entity.
And then Cindy says, did I hear that you only won 1 task per proposal? Cindy, I would say that depends, because say you want to apply for 4 tasks and you're really strong in 3 of them and not so much in 1, but you only submitted 1 application and that 1 application had all 4 tasks. Think about the scoring. The chances are going to lower because that 4th one was maybe not so great, right? Or the points were much lower in that 4th one. But Jesse, if you want to add more.
Yeah, I would just to clarify. So that's what we want to avoid. So in short, yes, 1 proposal per task. What we wanted to avoid is groups thinking that they could, and maybe they can, do 7 proposals, but when we receive them, you might be weaker in 2 or 3. That would undermine your entire proposal, right? We'd have to score the whole proposal, in which case we would say you get weighted down by the fact that there are maybe 2 or 3 you weren't strongest in. So we'd like, if you are the strongest in 3 or 4 of those, to then win the proposal. But if you bundle them together, you might inherently weaken yourself and therefore lose out on the entire funding. So that is why it is 1 proposal per task.
Yeah, and that's to your benefit. Where can we find the list of tasks? Those are on each of the activation plans, and I don't remember the page numbers. You'd have to go look in each of the activation plans, depending on which activation plan you want to apply for. And then Catherine is asking, is it a max of 200,000 per task? Jesse.
No, that's for the full sector activation, all within that activation plan. So if there's 200,000 worth of good proposals within semiconductor, we will fund as much as 200,000. If there is 200,000 worth of good proposals in childcare, we'll go up to 200,000. We may, if one of those sectors doesn't receive a lot of quality proposals, we may deploy, let's say healthcare only gets 100,000. We may deploy that extra 100,000 to other strong proposals that necessarily didn't get the first 200,000. So it's 200,000 for the within that entire activation plan. So the likelihood of asking for 200,000 just for one task will probably not be very competitive, because we want to try to fund as much of the activation plans as we can with the 200,000.
Do you recommend a ballpark funding amount? We don't have that in the NOFO. We didn't add that because we didn't think it was necessary, but Jesse, do you have suggestions?
Well,
I mean, it's not like round 1 and rounds 2 where we added project phases, right? So
yeah, other than kind of what's been stated, obviously, I think from your proposal, it would have to be a very exact funding amount. If I'm reading this correctly, on one hand, if you're setting the proposal, it needs to be very clear the dollar amount. If you're talking about what we recommend people pitch for, that'll be very much based on the tasks. I would just let you know that, again, you're looking at approximately 200,000 to be spent on each activation plan. So if you look at that and you see, we recognize we can't fund the whole plans with 200,000, but we want to try to fund as much of it as possible. Just kind of take that into consideration as you make your requests. But Dr. White, I don't know if you have anything else.
I was just
someone else or Natalie, anything else?
say the same thing. It really does depend on the task.
Yes.
And what the resources are necessary to accomplish that task.
Yeah.
Reasonably.
okay, Clifford, for clarity, if I have not previously been awarded funding for a Catalyst plan, am I able to apply for Catalyst funding during this round? Clifford, even if you would have been awarded rounds 1 and rounds 2, you can still apply for round 3. Whether you were selected or not in the previous rounds, you can still apply.
As long as you're eligible, meet the
As long
the
as you're
other
eligible.
eligibility criteria, yes.
Yeah.
Question from Nicole. Go ahead, Nicole.
No, I'm sorry. I mistakenly hit the hand. Thank you.
It's okay. Thanks, Nicole. Okay, someone asked, would you say the max amount an applicant can apply for is 200,000? Also, if there are several strong proposals, but the collective amount is more than 200, will you lower the amount awarded for each or just go with the top applicants?
Yeah. I think that's fair to say, but I would think it's fair to say that you could apply for up to $200,000. Again, everything has to be justified, of course. I guess, yes, it would not make sense to apply for more than $200,000, I guess. Although practically, would it be advantageous? I don't know. I don't think so, but you guys can review the activation plans and see where your strengths are. Regarding the second one, I guess we don't have a definitive answer. It will really be how many strong proposals we see, which we don't know until we see them. Because yes, there's like we want to advance as many projects as possible. However, we also don't want to leave a lot of projects half funded, and therefore they're not really being executed either. So it really will depend on whether there's 20 great proposals and we just can't fund them all, or are there 5 really good proposals and we're just having to kind of make decisions. So sorry, that's not a definitive answer, but it really will depend on how many other competitive proposals are within that specific activation plan.
Mm-hmm. And then Travis is asking, if we submit multiple proposals, do we need to provide unique letters of reference for each one, or can the same letters be used across proposals as long as they speak to our org's capacity to deliver on the specific tasks. So my understanding is 3 letters of reference per application, but Jesse, feel free to add, or Dr. Walrod.
Yeah, I don't, if you're going to propose on 4-hour proposal, we don't need 12 letters of reference so long as it's relevant to what you're proposing on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if there's a certain, if you're, say, proposing on 3 tasks, and there's a particular reference that is for that particular task, that would be good to include, but I agree with Jesse.
Yeah. So long as they're kind of related, I think, we're happy for you to kind of reapply a letter of reference from the same org. And we see ourselves as one of those.
Yeah, and it is all the same account. So if you're applying 4 times for different applications, it's all your same account. So I'll be able to see that it's the same first name, last name org.
Yeah. And now to your question, the answer is no. I think we put the responsible parties there, recognizing who could do it. I'm sure a lot of these tasks inherently require partnerships, but it's not as if it's an ineligible or bad proposal if you don't have every group within that task as a responsible party listed. So I think, yeah, you can apply with kind of a semi-complete form of all the responsible parties in there.
Jesse, you're muted.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, Alberto. So I'll jump in here. Well, the state does have implementation phase funding. Maria, I think will feel free to just let people know they can look at that as well. That's fully administered by the state. But what we have are region-specific dollars. And so these activation plans are more closely aligned with what the state wants to do around industry cluster development. And so that's the relationship. Where many of these sectors you see here are in the state's broader plan of certain sectors they want to invest in and sectors that they recognize are important to the state.
And when I send you all the recap email, I'm also happy to send you the statewide Jobs First webpage with the implementation section linked as well.
But I think if you're thinking about just general question is like post Catalyst with us and post what the state is thinking about in implementation, which ends at the end around of September of next year, I would tell you the state is still working on what this looks like, post this grant. And to be honest, right, they have to think about the next administration and what those priorities are. So even they don't have a clear answer for even the regional conveners as far as what this will look like post September of 2026.
Did you want to add something, Dr. Walrod?
No, that was good. Jesse, I think you could probably handle this one, Maria.
Yeah, go ahead, Maria.
Yeah. Okay. So the question is, what would you say is the most prominent difference between rounds 3 and rounds 1 and 2? So rounds 1 and 2 focused on community enhancing projects and job creating projects, still, good paying jobs. But we didn't mention any of the activation plans. These activation plans were something that as a collaborative and OCBC staff, we were still working on and, planning to submit to the state, which we did. So there wasn't a specific responsible party section mentioned in the NOFO, tasks, tactics, all of that. So that's very different. You're now applying for 5 sectors. You pick 1 or 2, depending on your org. That's something that wasn't mentioned in rounds 1 and 2. Should we expect to be reimbursed for doing the work? Natalie? Oh, Dr. Walrod?
All I was going to say is if you're referring to the actual proposal, the work on the proposal, then no, that wouldn't be reimbursed. If you are selected, then yes, that you will have an agreement, and the terms of the agreement, including the amount, will be spelled out in that agreement.
Thank you, Dr. Walrod. Okay, how does the requested funding amount impact the evaluation of an application? Specifically, if the review committee deems a lower amount to be more appropriate, will the application be considered for partial funding or will it be rejected? We wouldn't reject an application because you asked for more money as long as it makes sense to the scoring committee. So if you're asking for $40,000 out of the 200, and someone else is asking for 20, their application wouldn't be stronger because of the funding amount that is being requested. There's other things that we're looking at. Dr. Walrod, feel free to
But-
add.
Sure, there is a possibility that if you proposed a certain amount, it won't be totally rejected. We could consider partial funding for what you request.
Yeah. And a little bit more directly, it would just primarily impact your budget score. And then from there, right, you'd have to see where your kind of total ends up in comparison again with not only the tasks that people who are proposing on the same task as you, but then in comparison to all the other tasks. So it might have a small direct impact, but then we would have to consider, right, whether it still is strong enough and then whether we'd have to go to a plan B a little bit.
Mhm. Are you only awarding one org per task? No, we're not. Even in round 2, we awarded one org, 2 separate awards. So the same org applied for 3 projects and we awarded 2 out of 3 because those 2 out of 3 were very strong. You all have great questions. What I mean is it one award per task?
There could be multiple awards per task. That's a possibility.
Okay, Jonathan asks, if 2 projects are working along the same goal, would there be a chance for you to group them together to apply together? Dr. Walrod and Jesse,
We wouldn't.
I know we,
It wouldn't be an application together because we wouldn't know that you guys are applying together. There's not like we're giving ourselves a grace period, but you could see kind of to Dr. Walrod's point of we could maybe award the same org to the same task, assuming that other proposal is, or after, as we grade that and we score them, we could notify you of the need to merge and what that might look like.
I don't see any other questions. I'll wait. Oh, one more. Can you explain the difference between a task, a sector, and activation? Okay. I'm going to bring up that slide again so that you all can look. And again, these will be sent to you. So let me zoom in for you all. When you're looking at the activation plan, look at the task. So it'll tell you the strategy, right? So you'll want to read that, like strategy 1, create work-based learning opportunities in high demand industries, et cetera, et cetera. This is for tourism and outdoor activation plan. It's going to be different for each activation plan, and there's a total of 5. Tactic 1, recruit and build an industry workforce working group to develop recommendations and best practices, assess future workforce needs, identify emerging trends, etc. It then tells you the purpose. So the purpose is create a body that can provide strategic direction, build buy-in for work-based learning opportunities among businesses, labor, workforce, etc. Here's your task. Now the task is to identify and engage business, labor, and education leaders in the tourism and outdoor recreation industry to form a collaborative working group. Then the responsible party section will talk about like the public sector and economic development org. So you'll see the different orgs name. You'll see, depending on the activation plan and the tactic, you might see Orange County Business Council. You'll see small business and entrepreneurship support orgs, labor unions, and then you'll look at the timeline as well. And then just remember that everything must be expensed by September 30, 2026. And I feel like I had given you all a definition of the activation plan earlier. Okay, so an activation plan is a project management tool designed to effectively execute strategies. It prioritizes tactics from Regional Plan Part 2, converting them into specific tasks with timelines, assigned responsibilities, and identified budgets. So this same definition you will find on the Jobs First webpage. And that should be right where the activation plan section is. So you'll see a definition here. And again, you'll all get the slides as well. We still have a few minutes if anyone wants to come off mute to ask a question or post it in the Q&A chat. And if you're reviewing the activation plan or the NOFO packet and you realize you have more questions or you have questions that you didn't think of during this webinar, you can also email the Jobs First email. Okay, would you repeat the colors of the targeted areas? Yeah, for the equity map, again, it's 204, 304, 404, and then it's the blue and or green, which is where you'll find the lower income areas. Sorry, I missed this earlier. What is the oh, okay, it's been answered. So the question was, what is the anticipated award amount per task? There's no set award amount per task. You're very welcome. And while we're waiting, before we adjourn, I'll read another question. Just for those people who are watching the webinar later, once it's linked in the webpage and you can't see the chat, although this will all be in the Q&A updated by next Friday. One question is, so the proposals are per task, not per tactic? That's correct. They are per task. Another good question. Apologies if this was covered earlier, but can an org submit proposals for tasks across multiple activation plans, or should we focus on submitting proposals for tasks within a single activation plan? You can apply for multiple activation plans. Okay, another question. We noticed that the Jobs First webpage kept getting updated to release NOFO, but then reverted where NOFO disappeared multiple times since September 22nd. What was going on? Will this happen again? Is only most recent information released valid as application instructions? So we haven't touched the webpage, like we haven't removed the NOFO or updated information that would affect the applicants. I encourage that if that does happen again and you see that and you experience it, send me a screenshot of what you're seeing. If it's like an error page or something, to jobsfirst@ocbc.org, and then I'll take care of that with our IT department. In order to be competitive, does your proposal have to serve disinvested communities? This is one of the portions of the application that is really important. It's one of the requirements. So you want to make sure that you look at the NOFO packet where it does talk about disinvested communities. To make it easy for you, let me see if I can find what page you'd be going to in the NOFO, since we still have a minute left. The glossary section has a definition, by the way, for disinvested communities as well. So you can look at that, at the definitions there. Yeah, and then remember that that is one of the purpose of this funding, is advanced projects that ensure that disinvested communities are significantly benefiting.
Got it. Well, we are at the top of the hour, so thank you, everybody. If you have any other questions, please send them to Maria. I can attest that she is very prompt, and you wouldn't have to wait long to get your answer, so you could think about proposing. But we look forward to reading your proposals, and thank you so much for your interest. Take care.